Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Logan aka Frostfire, bringing the biggest news I've ever brought on this channel. The Akali Rework has been revealed. Yesterday at around 3 AM my time, Professor Akali accidentally uploaded an unlisted video showcasing the video he made on the Akali Rework and its abilities. I was there when it was just at 50 fucking views. I would have made a video right then and there, but the awesome folks in Astro's Akali Mains Club recommended against me doing that so that Riot doesn't get pissed at me. That leads to where we are right now. I'm going to give my full opinion as an Akali main on what I think of it, but before I dive in head first, let me introduce myself as there are likely some new people here. My name is Frostfire Akali and I've been playing Akali since late 2015. I've amassed over 500,000 mastery points on her over the past 3 years of my life, and she's the only reason I still play League. Ever since the last Akali rework that failed miserably, I've been very vocal towards Riot about keeping her core identity and playstyle the same, so I will say I am a bit biased about the rework, but I will try to stay as objective as I can nonetheless. Let's begin. Starting with her new passive, Assassin's Mark. Damaging a champion with an ability creates a ring around them and Akali gains movement speed towards it. When you cross the ring, you gain even more move speed and gain an empowered auto attack that increases range, has dual scaling magic damage, and gives you flat energy restoration. Her Q is 5-point strike. Akali throws 5 kunai in a narrow arc, kind of like Swain's new Q, dealing magic damage in a cone and slowing people at the tip. When cast over 100 energy, Akali also heals for 28 to 64% of pre-mitigation damage. At rank 5, it also gains extra hybrid scaling against minions and monsters as well. Moving on to her new Shroud. It's the thing that the League of Legends subreddit has been freaking out about. You throw down a cloud of smoke that expands outwards into a hollow donut that obscures Akali. Obscuration is a new mechanic currently exclusive to Akali. It's basically stealth, except nothing actually reveals you. At most you are shimmered. So zero true sight. You can go under turret, you can go under fountain. It's certainly T, what do you expect? But disregarding that, her new E is Shuriken Flip. You throw a Shuriken forward and dash backwards simultaneously. If the Shuriken hits a target, they get dealt physical damage and get marked. Akali can then dash to the marked target from what appears to be any distance, dealing the same damage again. Sort of like Lee Sin Q, but very different. Lastly, onto her new ultimate, Perfect Execution. Akali dashes up to 2 times with a 3-second delay in between. The first dash deals physical damage and very briefly stuns hit targets, and the second deals magic damage based on missing health of the enemy. Both casts are now no longer targeted as well. I had to get that out of the way for new people and people who didn't even know that Akali was getting a rework, so now we can get onto the juicy stuff. But allow me to give a TLDR of what I think of the rework as a whole. It's not what I would have envisioned, or what I would have done if I was behind the rework, but it still managed to exceed my expectations. I may be in the minority of older Akali mains that like the rework, but I'm fine with that. The rework as a whole looks amazing in my eyes. But I didn't get 500,000 mastery points just because of pretty visuals and skins, and I won't get another 500k on new Akali for the same reason. The gameplay is the ultimate factor for me, and I will go into depth as to what I think. Let's start with her passive. Compared to her current passive, I like it. It's essentially her current Q proc, except with a new mechanic, and it's proccable with every ability. I like that it's dual scaling, as spoiler alert, you're still gonna be building Gunblade. I think the new mechanic is interesting to say the least. How it'll actually play out in lane I have yet to see, but I'm assuming it'll be fun to play with. Although I'll miss the flat healing of her current passive, and I'll really fucking miss the spell vamp of her even older passive, I still like this. Now let's talk about Q. An actual ranged wave clear ability? Fucking yes. One of the most frustrating parts about current Akali is the fact that to have any wave clear, you need to be in between both caster and melee minions. And if you're low on health or are getting sieged by multiple people, this is pretty much impossible to do, as you'll be committing suicide for the wave. So that's a plus. And I like how they basically moved her current passive flat healing to this ability as well. It'll make it easier to vamp up against ranged laners, as you won't have to walk up a melee creep to get the flat healing. Based off of the previously mentioned changes and the fact that it looks very fluid and fun to play with, I think it's an improvement, but compared to her old Q, it is missing some things. You can't double Q anymore, which is seriously gonna be missed, as it was an easy way to exploit bad players. It has a hefty energy cost, which, while okay for balancing reasons, is gonna be a bit annoying if you're not used to managing resources, since old Akali never really had energy issues. And with new Q, you'll never be able to experience the orgasmic feeling of Qing your laner, autoing a minion to set your passive up, jumping onto them and hearing that proc sound effect right as you chunk half their health at level 6. Then you ignite them, you RQ auto again, and enemy has been slain. It's one of the most satisfying things in League of Legends, and it will be sorely missed. Now let's talk about the one, the only, the low health ADC main's worst nightmare, Twilight Shroud. You've probably already heard the roaring of salty ADC mains from across the world, but basically, Shroud is no longer a cool wavy blade and is now a 6 smoke bomb that expands into a hollow donut. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it already, but there's this now little overlooked part of it, where she's literally untargetable in Tower, Fountain. No Lulu or Lee Sin will make her targetable unless you move out of Shroud. Regardless of talks about counterplaying game balance though, I will say I am excited to utilize this change, even if it's unhealthy as fuck. Which I'm not saying it is, it's too soon for me or anyone else to really say. I will however say it's not a foolproof dive tool like some people on Reddit are claiming it is. You still need to leave Shroud to damage targets, and at the very least she'll still take a few tower shots in the dive unless she literally one-shots you. With that, there is one important thing that I want to say before I go into the actual changes. Regardless of how good or bad this new Shroud is, I am very scared for the future of Akali. Akali has already had a very tumultuous past when it comes to balancing, and I don't want that for new Akali. So while I support certainly T's decision to make this and to keep innovating League of Legends into something better, I am scared for her future, and I don't want her to get Ricklist again. And another issue I thought of is, I don't know how else they could balance new Shroud if they decide to remove Obscuration. Current Shroud has better move speed by 80%, it has a slow, it has a dash, it has a longer duration, and it has that underrated CC removal, which means if a Blitzcrank pulls you and you Shroud beforehand, bye-bye pull. New Shroud is worse in every other way with the exception of it having Obscuration, of course, having a few seconds shorter cooldown, and it restoring energy as opposed to using. Unless they revert the stat changes and give it some sort of new mechanic that isn't Obscuration, I can't see them removing the new mechanic without severely hurting Akali greatly, and that deeply worries me. But something that doesn't worry me nearly as much is her E. Let's talk about it. Her E is interesting. It'll likely put her on the radar for early kills considering its synergy with her passive, and I like how it actually has 2 dashes built in instead of 1. But with the positive comes the negative. It doesn't have an AP scaling, which is confusing considering I believe Akali is still meant to build AP. This makes it to where it's basically only a mobility tool late game unless you went crazy with the AD items, which I can't envision. That's basically going to force you to itemize purely for your passive and Q since your ult has a hefty cooldown and can't be relied on in every fight like current Akali. The one saving grace it has though is probably its interaction with Shroud. If it didn't have that, I'd probably write it off as mediocre since base damage isn't that good on an assassin after all, but since it can be used as an enabler for her passive, Q, and potentially even R, I really appreciate it, and I think it'll be fun to play with. Now on to her new ultimate. I'm a little bit torn on it. On one hand, I want to embrace the pure awesomeness of it, but on the other, it feels bad losing resets. While it looks amazing thematically and fits better into the assassin fantasy, I feel like it'll make Akali less of a 1v5 hypercarry than before. And that sucks, as that was a big reason why I liked Akali. But if I'm being real here, Akali really hasn't had the potential to 1v5 for a while unless you're smurfing, hyperfed, or TF fucking Blade. And this new ult will be better in higher ELOs most likely, since you can actually count on your team to properly teamfight, and you don't have to be the sole proprietor when it comes to winning the game. So in a scenario where, say, both teams are about even, you're pretty fed, and they have a really fed carry, say a Kai'Sa or a Yasuo, this ult will be better, because you can just get in there, stun their ass, passive proc Q, execute their ass, and then just poke from Shroud while your team cleans up the rest of their team because the carry is down. This ult is better for that scenario. But a more realistic scenario that has happened to me multiple fucking times, look at my match history, is a scenario where you're 6-0 on your laner because your laner was born without hands, and every other lane is feeding, and you're the only hope for winning the game. And in that scenario, new ult will be worse unfortunately. You could theoretically get caught when it's on cooldown. You could whiff the second part because you're just bad. If they have a good peel champion, you won't have enough flat mobility to catch up with them. And regardless of all theoretical scenarios, Akali is unfortunately less mobile after the rework. So with all said and done, that's pretty much my opinion on her new kit. I like the new passive, I like the new Q. New Shroud, while worrying, I still like because I'll get to fucking abuse it, and even though it's a departure from her current ult, I do still like the new ult. With all that said and done, let's talk about another part of her rework, her visuals. The community is unfortunately split on whether she looks like Sonic the Hedgehog or some obscure anime character no one knows about, but I still like them. The walking animation is very good compared to the current one, which just looks like her back is broken. The new skins are fucking gorgeous in terms of splash art and in-game design, although I will say RIP Crimson Akali as it was my first skin. Please leave F in the comments if you've gotten this far. But the skins are overall an upgrade, and I really like them, especially All-Star. It doesn't look stupid now, it looks good! But the one thing I don't like about the visuals is, where's the side boob? We're making a fucking petition to bring that shit back unless you do it when it hits live, Riot. I know you're listening to me. Bring back Akali's side boob 2018. And if you're wondering, I can't really comment on her VO yet, as I haven't really played her yet. Even though I've probably went into way more detail than I've needed to, this is still a first impressions video, and when she hits live I will make a revised video. That pretty much sums up all of my thoughts on the rework though, at least the ones I can put into a video. I'm glad we didn't get another Rickless special, and even though it is a slight departure from old Akali, I am very satisfied with the new rework. Even though I know about only 2 people will have ever gotten this far, I'm still going to say, if you're an Akali main looking for a club in NA, I have one with the tag Akali with an E, and one with the name Akali spelt backwards. Both of them have a decent amount of open slots, and there's also a new Discord server which I'll link in the description for the Akali Club. My name is Logan aka Frostfire, and I will see you in the next one, which is probably going to come sooner rather than later. Peace.